Yes Blues and United fans, if there are any on. Welcome to Brooklyn Blues. We're doing a new series. Well, this is the first episode of a new series called The Away End. This is where we talk to, obviously, rival fans. It's the Manchester derby to tomorrow, as everyone was hopefully aware at this point. If you're not, I don't know where you've been. Probably not a derby that's got as much riding on things as previous seasons. I think probably more so for United at the minute. But obviously, a derby's a derby. From a City point of view, it's a game that it's a must win for us. Obviously, going for that top four, that top four finish. I'm joined by three United fans here. So we've got Joe, Nathan, and Jack. How are you all doing?
Good, thanks. Happy to be here.
Good.
Not too bad.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Lou.
We've got a nice little bit of light on you there, Jack. You look great, mate.
It's all coming in.
It's all coming in. Good stuff.
Get my best angle.
Good stuff. So I'll come to you. I'll start with you, Joe. Just give us a bit about yourself. How long have you been following United now?
From the minute I was born, I wasn't allowed to support any other team whatsoever. My dad told me that straight away.
Yeah.
I'm 27 now, so I've been playing United for 27 years. Unfortunately, I've only got the recent stuff that I can remember. So all the bad times, really. But hopefully we'll get back to it soon.
Good stuff. Favorite player growing up?
David Beckham, easy.
Really? Beckham?
Yeah. I remember going to. I don't remember this. My dad tells me this though. Went to a friendly game against Boca Juniors. I can't remember what year it was. And the only person I wanted to see was David Beckham. And when I got there, I just kept saying, "Where's Beckham? Where's Beckham?"
Yeah.
And eventually, my dad pointed him out. And after he pointed him out, I went, "Right, can we go home now?" So yeah, David Beckham was my favourite player. He's my favourite all-time United player.
Right. I thought, you know what? I don't know why. I've never asked you, to be fair, but I thought you were going to say Rooney. I always thought he was more of a Wayne.
He's the best. He's the best player I've ever had.
Yeah.
But my favourite, David Beckham. Easy.
Fair play. To be fair, you know what? A lot of kids, especially people our age growing up, obviously for United, I mean, Beckham he changed the game, didn't he? He changed what it meant to be.
Yeah, you don't get him anymore.
In England. You don't. No, you don't. Good shout. Nathan, I'll come over to you, mate. How long have you been supporting the club?
Well, I think I'm 33 now. I always get confused. So pretty much for 33 years. So obviously I lived through all the glory years. I was brought up as a United fan by my mother, who decided to be a City fan halfway through her life, which was terrible. Which actually meant that I went to quite a few City games, to be honest with you. But yeah, supported them 30 odd years, and this has been the worst 10 years of my life.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a theme here, isn't there, to be fair. Who was your favourite player growing up?
Schoolsy. Schoolsy is my favourite player. I think the way he plays football is why. Obviously, Wayne Rooney's close. Wayne Rooney's the perfect player. I think he'd go into any team. Yeah. But it has to be Schoolsy. I think quiet, distributes the ball all over the pitch, unsung hero. And obviously there's a reason why he's part of all the debates with Lampard and Gerrard, etc.
We'll get to, it's a good debate that now. It is a good debate that, especially with obviously Kev retiring, which obviously we'll come to. Jack, we'll come over to you, mate. How are you doing?
Yeah, doing well. Very, very similar to Joe. Obviously, I'm 27 now, so I've been supporting United for 27 years. Interesting one. My dad is actually a Southampton fan. He moved up to Manchester very early, obviously had me, but it's my uncle who's the big red. And he turned up to the hospital when I was born with a United baby grow. And then from there, it was just United all the way. So as Joe and Nathan have already pointed out, I've seen the good old days and I've experienced the current bad days. But listen, it's you can't be winning everything. It gets boring eventually. So it's nice to have a moment of not greatness really. But in terms of favourite player, I think from a longevity point of view, it's for me it is Rooney. But I would say that there's a few other sort of other players that I've always loved. Insofar as obviously you can't not love Ronaldo. You know, he made me sort of fall in love with watching that way United were playing. But another one for me is also Berbatov. Always been a big fan of Berbatov. Just thought he just got on with it, and he was just he was a master of his own game, and I think he was great to watch. So yeah, it's probably, but still Rooney, I'd say, their favourite player.
Wayne Rooney. I think if you turn up to the hospital now with a United baby girl, I think you get stopped, don't you? Or reported, I think. Good stuff, good stuff. So I wanted to start and I suppose get your. I mean, I spoke to obviously a lot of City fans about it. I had a few City fans on today in the stream that was on, earlier today, and obviously spoke about Kev. There's always going to be an element of bias because obviously he's a City player with City fans. We watch him, been watching him for the last 10 years play week in, week out. So obviously there's an element there. But I wanted to try and get your. I suppose you can try and be as unbiased as you can, but I'd rather you be honest. What's your thoughts on his legacy within the Premier? Where does he rank for you in that midfield debate? Jack, I'll start with you on this, mate.
Yeah, I thought you would. I'm a fan of De Bruyne. It's only the other day I was sort of showing you that the video of the game where you played against Stoke, and De Bruyne was just at the top of his game. And I feel that if we're talking about, I know obviously a lot of recency bias and stuff comes into it, but I generally do believe De Bruyne is top 5 for me all time in the Premier League. I think that the way he commanded the game, the way he could change the game through one simple pass, the vision that he had. Now, listen, he had a fantastic team around him, but yeah. I also sort of see that if he didn't have a fantastic team around him, he could still sort of work the magic that he was doing. So I think that he did sort of change the style of game because he allowed midfielders to sort of take a role of you could be anywhere on the pitch and create that goal-scoring opportunity rather than having to carry the ball up or anything like that, which he could do as well. But yeah, for me, some of those passes, some of that vision that he had was just, I've never seen anything better, quite frankly, when it came to his passing.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I think if you watch a lot of his earlier seasons at City, some of the passes, you can watch his highlights, his compilations and that, but some of those early passes, he'd literally pick the ball up and spray a ball 30, 40 yards, like in on goal. I'd never seen anyone really, and I know Scholes, he could do it, but I never saw anyone do it like week in, week out, like he was doing it, especially in like the first kind of like seven years. But yeah, good shout. Nathan?
I think it's possibly top 10. Definitely top 10. I think he's a prime example of kind of the style of player these days. He's someone that I don't think Pep's drilled anything out of. Obviously, I feel like personally Pep takes a lot of skill away from players, but I think De Bruyne is. I mean, one of the reasons Pep's been so successful is De Bruyne. His numbers speak for themselves. And you know me about stats. I'm not a massive stat fan, but you can see that he's someone who you pass him the ball, he's going to change the game. You don't have many players like that in teams anymore, especially in teams, great teams such as City, because you've got so many great players. But he's the player. Obviously, he's run himself into the ground, which is why I think now he's obviously going to be moving on, as we know. And the last couple of seasons, he's had injuries and he's not been great, but he's definitely up there. Which is hard because I thought your best midfielder for the last 10 years was Yaya Toure, and then obviously De Bruyne has come in and played a slightly different role than Yaya, but yeah. It's that question now when you go in Lampard, Gerrard, Scholes, where does De Bruyne sit in that midfield, in that best 11 shout? Who knows? But I don't think he's a system player. I think he can fit into any team and do a great job. But obviously we've seen the best of him at City.
Yeah, very, very lucky I think to have him for as long as we did in the league. A player of that caliber. It's I suppose that's what the one good thing about the league at the minute. The last few years is we managed to keep mostly, you know, I can say this from a City point of view. We've been very fortunate. You think about players like, you know, Aguero, David Silva, you know, Spanish Argentinians. They do a couple of years here and then they pop off to Madrid, wouldn't they? So very, very lucky actually to have a lot of these players for the twilights, really, the career. Yaya was the same. We had him, ran himself into the ground, and then obviously, ended up moving on. And there's been other players from other teams that have obviously done very similar as well.
I think,
Joe, sorry, mate,
sorry,
Nath, go on. Sorry.
I think with De Bruyne though, he's got that good thing where he's not a knobhead, if you get me. Like when sometimes you watch players like Gerrard,
Yeah.
as a rival fan, you think, what a knobhead. Yeah, he's a good player, but what a knob. Like, whereas De Bruyne, he just comes, does the business. You don't think, oh, I hate this guy. He's not going to go in hard on one of our players. He's just going to do the business. And
Yeah.
I think that's why people might
Not a
appreciate
shit
it more.
house.
Yeah, basically. I think that's why people might appreciate him a bit more.
Do you know what, I wish I'd have brought a pint now. I just saw Joe picked up a pint of, it's got to be what? That's a glass of Foster's, that, isn't it, Joe?
Yeah. It's a San Miguel glass though, so I get away with it.
Yeah. I'm not going to right, go on, Joe. What do you reckon? What are your thoughts on KDB?
Well, it's a shame it's been recorded, but it hurts me to say it. Though I've said for ages about De Bruyne that I could watch him for hours. I could watch him for 8 hours a day, just doing whatever he's doing. He's just that good of a player, and I think some of the things he does, like you wouldn't even if you didn't try it, you wouldn't be that bothered.
Yeah.
But I agree with Nathan actually. Like I think the best player you've had is Yaya Toure out of any sort of midfielder or attacker that you've had. But De Bruyne for me, I think as well. If you think about it, he was at Chelsea and left. It shows how good he actually is to leave a big club. Go, was it Wolfsburg or something like that?
Yeah.
And then
the year there as well.
Yeah, to still go over there, smash it, and then come back and get even better. I think it shows how good he actually is. But yeah, he's it's a shame you lot had him in those.
We got Bruno though, so
yeah, I got Bruno. Yeah, great. I don't know where he sits in the top 5. For me, Roy Keane is the best midfielder in the Premier League history. I'd probably say top 6. He's probably behind Gerrard, Lampard, and Roy Keane for me. I'd say about 6.
6, Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna.
It's not being biased either.
Yeah, I think. Well, obviously, I'm going to disagree there. I think, do you know, in terms of the Lampard Scholes and the Jet, for me, when we talk about this, and there is this, there's this, the nostalgia is a big thing. I think nostalgia bait and those nostalgia trips that people have, I do think that's, you know, when we talk about Scholes and Gerrard and Lampard, don't get me wrong, I think they were, for their time, fantastic players. I always put Lampard ahead of all of them just for the goals. I thought the amount of goals he scored for Chelsea was phenomenal. I thought Scholes was good as well. They were all great, but I think obviously as football has advanced now, I think the players have gotten, you know, better. You know, that's how I see it. I think that's how sport tends to go. People obviously. The sports tend to, you know, get better over time, and I think if you look at the numbers, the trophies is tough, isn't it? Because Roy Keane won, you know, fucking loads with United, but I think the Champions League with City was always a big one. I think, you know, dragging us through that was also a big one as well. So I mean, for me, he's obviously, I'd always put him in that top 3. But interesting, top 6. Prem legend, anyway. I think we can all agree with that. Definitely, at least, you know, an all-time great. He's always going to be.
He's probably the best Belgian player I've ever seen.
Yeah,
if you can give him that.
Yeah,
better than Lukaku, put it that way.
Yeah.
Do you think he'll get a statue?
So there's a City Source. Journalist called Jack Gowan. He's pretty much spot on, and he'll have a statue. He confirmed it the other day. There's plans to do him one. I mean, you know, David Silva for me is a great City player of all time, and that still rings true now. But you know, and if he got a statue, I think Kev's got to get one as well. Just let me whack. We've got some questions in the chat here as well. Where do you think De Bruyne will go? So apparently he's got a holiday home in San Diego, which is a little bit random. And he was linked with San Diego, a football club in San Diego. I don't know if they're called San Diego FC, but he was linked with the club out there, which would make sense, to be fair. But apparently that's broken down. I can't see him going to Saudi, because if any of you have ever seen him play in anything over like 12 degrees, he's shagged. Bright red. I mean, he's ginger in it at the end of the day. He's not suited to the Saudi league, is he? So I do think he's going to go over to America. I think he'll join up, probably go into Miami or somewhere like that. I mean, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you want to link up with Suarez and Messi? Imagine that, Suarez, Messi, and De Bruyne in the MLS. Be ridiculous. So I think
that the Saudi is for the players sometimes who maybe are looking for a payday, and that's not for all of them, obviously. But I think that some of them recognise maybe I'm not going to reach certain heights. Maybe it's best to cash in now.
Yeah.
I personally, if given the choice, I would go over to America. I think with the MLS, I think it's obviously a much slower style of play, which I think would suit him massively with obviously the injuries and such. And I think that, like I say, they also have the financial backing as well. So he's not going to be playing over there for peanuts.
No.
He's still got some money behind him. It's probably a sort of environment that he's used to. And I think that would make more sense for him to go to the MLS. But I also can see that some of the Saudi teams coming in with some big money for him, because it's he's still a big name, a big player, and I think it's someone they'd like to get on their team or play with their players.
Yeah.
I think the City's perspective, it'd be nice for you lot if he retired at Hughes. Be remembered as the City legend, which he probably will be anyway. But if you look at people like Gerrard went to America, didn't he? And he kind of just, what did he do there? Nothing.
Was it LA Galaxy he went, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think from a City perspective, it'd be good if he retired at you lot. But if the guy could go to Saudi or MLS, and he'd probably still be the best player there now.
Yeah.
The way he's playing.
Yeah. KDB is an incredible player. I think the biggest thing keeping him out of one of the GOAT conversations is his injury record. You know what? Weirdly enough, I actually think it goes the other way, because if you look at his numbers compared to everyone we spoke about, there's a massive gap. And I think he missed like pretty much 2 seasons worth of football with ligament injuries. If he'd have had another couple of seasons, his numbers would have been just completely off the charts. But I get what you're saying. But I think if it was to the point where like he was Ledley King playing one in like 5 games, it might be a different conversation. Get Kev to Orlando City so I can watch. Big up Orlando. Big up Rajak as well. Thank you for joining the stream there, mate. He's definitely going to the States either way. We'll move on to the derby. This is what everyone's here for, to watch you lot try and absolutely rinse me, most likely. So we'll jump in. First of all, how are you feeling ahead of this derby? Are you confident? Are you nervous? You're not asked?
I think you're playing poorly this season. I think we have a chance. We turn up against big clubs for some reason. We always do. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. But to me, obviously, this is personal to me. I've written the season off.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, bragging rights is great to beat you.
Yeah.
But if you beat us 1-0, oh wow. Like,
yeah.
it is what it is to me. But I miss the days where we were both challenging and something actually mattered in these derbies.
Yeah, I agree with you, Nath. I think that most United fans have written this season on. I think that we still, both teams are playing for something. We're playing to not be 13th, of course, but at the same time, we have Spurs, who were a couple of points behind us. The sort of the gap between teams towards the bottom is quite close, as it always is. So it's always good to get 3 points on there. I think for yourselves, obviously, need to secure that Champions League space. And you've got a lot of the teams at the moment. You get your Chelseas and your Arsenals and stuff that are sort of are gunning to get as high as possible. So I think that there's still a game to play for both of us. But I think that with it being this sort of late stage and with the league already sort of being decided, it's sort of taken a bit of the hype away from the game, really. Whereas normally, like when we play early in the season, we're both at each other's necks. So it'll be interesting to see how teams both come out tomorrow.
He's confident.
I think we can do it. But although you've got Haaland out, and I think that is actually better for you.
Yes.
I think you stand more of a chance of beating us without Haaland than with him. But we're more likely to beat you than we are to beat Brighton or someone like that. That's the situation we're in at the moment.
Yeah, it's a weird one. It is. I actually said this to Joe the other day. It's a bit of a weird one for United because ultimately everything's about Europa League for you lot now, isn't it? You have to, you have to win Europa League if you want anything, if you want Champions League, and that's the big one. United have to be in the Champions League from a financial point of view. I think it's killing you not getting that Champions League football. From a bragging rights point of view, no one wants to lose a derby. I don't care what anyone says. No one wants to go into work and get rinsed. It's a derby at the end of the day. There isn't a lot riding on it as previous seasons. I remember, and I've said this to you, Nath, previously, that 2007 onwards up until probably like 2014, when the derbies were really competitive. It was Fergie. Even at Mark Hughes, the 4-3 derby was, and being unbiased, was probably the most exciting derby of all time, just 'cause it was so back and forth. And then obviously, you had the 6-1s, and it just felt there was a bit of venom there. You had the Mancini, Fergie bust up on the touchline. You had Tevez, Neville going at each other again, on the pitch, and Tevez cupping his ears at Fergie. Just tried to do that with headphones on. That's not good, is it? But there was a bite there. There was a venom there. But obviously, since you lot have kind of come away from it, when Moyes came in and Van Gaal and Mourinho, it's obviously not meant as much because you've not gone for the title since.
There's a period. There's a period with Ollie in charge. You really struggled against us.
Yeah.
I think he's the only manager who won the most games against Pep. Out of all the managers in the league, I'm sure it is. And I think we beat you we beat each other four times. Can't remember what it was. But was that 4-3 derby? Was that the one where Michael Owen scored last minute?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've still got my dog bit me, so I jumped up 90 or what was it, 93rd, 90? No, it was like 94th, and we was only 91 minutes added time or something, weren't there? It was prime Fergie time. I remember just jumping up in the front room screaming, "Dog bit me!" On my, obviously shit himself, bit me. I've got a massive scar down my side here. Actually, it bit me twice, and there was another one where we scored a late win, and I can't remember what it was. Was it the Rooney? I don't know if it was the Rooney one. I can't remember which one the late one was. And it bit me on my knee, but I think that was because he was my mum's dog, and she's a City fan, so maybe that's why.
I remember coming home from. I went to watch that with my dad. And my mum came out as well. My mum's one of them. She's a United fan, but she's not. Do you know what I mean? She's a United fan because her side of the family are all United fans. She weren't putting it on, you know what I mean, on the weekend and watching it. But I remember coming home, near tears, to be honest with you. That was absolutely gutting. That goal. It gives me nightmares now thinking about it. With me and my dad coming home sulking. And my mum felt that bad. She's trying to, when they try and console you, like, oh, it's all right,
It's just a game.
Right in the
It's
league.
just a
It's just a game, yeah. Yeah, it's not a game. Yeah, it's my life, this. Be depressed for the next week, going into school, getting absolutely rinsed. No, but they were some belting derbies, them, to be fair. Jerome, Lowry, Europa League is the only thing that matters for us at this stage. Amorim beating Pep 3 times in one season would be great for morale and for getting fans and players to buy into his style. Yeah, it was 3 times. I'm sure a lot of people haven't forgot, but obviously the the start of the decline probably. Around that time was when Sporting spanked us, Amrin spanked us in the Champions League. And that was awful. It was an awful performance from us, that. And then obviously probably the lowest quality derby of all time was obviously the last one at the Etihad. It's the worst one I've seen for years, for a long time. I mean, I don't mind losing. I'd rather not lose a derby, but I think to lose in the way that we lost was just
The weird thing with that one was, even after you scored, I was sitting there thinking, we can still win this. Like, I'm not worried. I didn't think it was game over. I remember going to a game when we beat you 4-1. I think when Smalling scored an header 4-1. I remember thinking, fucking hell, it's gonna be 6-1. This we're gonna get our own back. You scored within 3 minutes. I think it was Aguero. That's one of them times where you sit back and you think, right, here we go, game over in 3 minutes. But even after you scored, I think was it De Bruyne or something like that. I remember thinking, we can still win this. And even after we got the penalty and scored, I remember sitting there thinking, let's go again. Like, we can beat these, and that's what is the problem with you this year. Anybody can beat you. Like, literally anybody can beat you if you just go at you.
Yeah. No, yeah. But I've seen it. I've obviously seen it all season. I mean, it's just moments. It was just moments in games. So, prior to this season, Man City were probably, I don't know, probably maybe put Real Madrid up there, or maybe Barca. But we were one of the best in the world at just killing the game dead. We could do it with 10 minutes to spare. You know what I mean? We'd do it against anyone. We just keep the ball, rotate the ball, get it in the corners, and we kill the game dead. We just, for whatever reason, this season we can't do it because there's too many.
That was the thing, weren't it? Like, you like Liverpool and a Klopp, it'd be, they go 2-0 up, right? They'll probably go and put 8 passes what they did against us that time, 7 or whatever it was. When it was with you lot, it was he'd go 2-0 up and we won't touch the ball for 40 minutes. And that was the difference.
Yeah, agreed. City most play for tomorrow. United just need Europa. Yeah, I think that's fair to say. To be fair, it was outside of pride. I think for you guys, I said this on my stream earlier though. You don't want to lose tomorrow because obviously it's gutting losing a derby. The players will feel it as well. I know it means a lot to the players as well. So you want form going into those latter stage games in the Europa League. You've got a very good chance of winning the Europa League, in my opinion. Spurs are in there, so they're not going to win anything, are they? They literally never do. So that's one less team to worry about. But I think you've just got to keep the form up, because even though I think you lost against Forest, didn't you? But speaking to you lads, I think you could all see the style of play starting to come in, and I think you'd say, what would you say you played well? I don't know, mate. I don't want to talk for you, but
I heard we had, obviously I were out, so I didn't see it, but I heard we had like 19 shots or something, and
yeah, it's deceiving.
It's deceiving. Was it like obviously
like an actual shooting from 35 yards out? Like,
yeah,
it wasn't. It was not only a shot from 5 yards out and should score. We weren't that good. I don't think, in my opinion. We couldn't create anything. That was our problem. We get to the final third and it'd be like a fish out of water. It's got no idea what to do.
Been our problem all season. That's the main thing is, and that's hopefully. But like you said, you can see the patterns of play now. You can see people buying into it, and by the end of the season, hopefully, Amarim will understand who he needs to get rid of and who we can keep. Because I don't think we're that many players away from actually getting a bit of a decent squad.
Yeah. It's all been very nice and amicable, but I think once we start getting down to the top 3 derbies and the combined 11, it's going to it'll all go tits up, won't it? But I was saying on stream earlier, and again maybe you feel the same, but in terms of quality and going forward, this is the worst United team I've ever seen. From growing up, you always had threats all over the pitch. Talk about players like Wayne Rooney. I remember those derbies. Every single time he picked it up, your ass would fall out because he could just score from nowhere. The overhead shin kick that he whacked in. He was just an animal. But I just don't see any of those players in that squad anymore. You talk about Garnacho. Again, not a player that particularly worries you. Rasmus Højlund. I mean, I outside of Bruno, I really struggle to see how you're going to score tomorrow outside of us making a mistake. So, what are you missing at the minute? Is it just a 20 goal season striker, or
Yeah.
It is. It is. I think our defence, apart from the right back, right wing back, or however we play these days, needs sorting. But we've got great centre backs. I mean, our threats is probably more Maguire than Rasmus Højlund, but I don't know if Maguire's still injured or not. But it is that we get to the end of the pitch and we can't do anything. Bruno's having to single-handedly pick up these games and score the goals because he's got no one. Højlund's got potential, but he was never brought in to be this main striker. He should have been brought in alongside someone, say we still a bit old now, but Cavani, someone to learn off in that way. But you need someone, and you don't get many good strikers these days. Everyone's an inside forward, a wide player, and that's your issue. Is if you do find someone, it's going to be big money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the price tag of Højlund sort of set the bar for this guy, he's going to be putting away 20, 30 and that sort of thing. But this is the price of these players from these European teams, especially when sort of United and stuff are knocking on your door. I'm going to these guys have got a bit of money and stuff. You attract these bigger prices. Now, as Nathan mentioned, I do think there is a player in Højlund. I think that the physicality and that element of him is great, but the physicality of it doesn't score goals. Putting the ball in the back of the net does, and we are creating those chances. And I think that without Bruno, I think we really, really would be exposed. I'm not saying that we're in any sense good at the moment, but I think we'd be woefully exposed if we didn't have him, because the chances that he can create, they're just missing them constantly. And it's a case of, if you had someone like you say, like Cavani's, or even with the argument with Haaland, where it was essentially that he wasn't scoring from outside the box, he was just scoring from inside the box. But that was because your players like De Bruyne and such were putting it on a plate for him, and that's all you need him to do. You don't need him to be scoring overhead kicks from outside the box. You just need him to be putting them in. And I think that's what we are missing at the moment, and with our position as stuff it shows. Yeah.
I'm hearing rumours about him potentially like leaving the club permanently in the summer. I don't know how accurate that is.
Well, I think the problem stem more than just go and get a striker, in my opinion, because I think if you put Haaland in there now, I would put my house on he would not score more than 20 goals for Man United next year. If you give Haaland a season loan next year, he won't score more than 20. We don't create enough. That's the problem that we've got. And it was obvious the other night when we were playing Forest. You get to the final third, and it's like you're playing FIFA. You score, you put it inside and shooting. I think you could put any striker in the world on literally there, and we're not going to. He'll get one shot a game, maybe.
Yeah.
So, it's one of them, isn't it?
More creative players, then. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Foden, I'd love Foden at United.
Not in the current state.
Maybe not. If
maybe not this season. Maybe last season.
There's not many.
Right.
There's not many I'd have.
Good stuff. I want to talk about some of the derbies that obviously we've all grown up with. What are the memorable derbies for you? I mean, for me, the ones that stand out is obviously the 6-1, obviously, because why wouldn't it? I think from a City point of view, that would that was when it felt to me, and a lot of the other City fans, that the tide had turned in that game. Mentally, I think a lot of those City players came out of that and they were like, yeah, no, we can win the title now. We've just beat the best team in the league, handily. So I think that was a massive turning point for the club, just in general, to be honest with you. It didn't feel like we were so second fiddle like we had done in previous seasons. I think that one, the Benjani header, I think it was the Munich anniversary. Don't think any of the City fans expected to go into that game and really get anything. So, it was a bit of a snatch and grab, really. But that iconic celebration when he, that was a belting game.
Shithouse,
yeah. And do you know what? I think I'll try and be unbiased there. But I think in terms of quality and excitement, that 4-3 derby it's got to be up there on it. I mean, it's probably I'd expect it to be in a few of yours anyway.
I was going to say, I'll go for mine if you want, Lou.
Yeah.
I've got one. We only sort of discussed it the other day, but I've got the 2012-13 season with Van Persie, his free kick.
Yeah.
I think that one, obviously a close game, 2-2, right up to the death. And then obviously Van Persie got one in. It took a deflection as well off Nasri, which is always nice for that to go in. Spawned a few great photographs of the screen and the blue moon and all that. Van Persie sat in front of it. But I think it worked well for that one because that was one that, number one, it put 6 points clear, which is always good because in the previous season, obviously you'd won the league, and it sort of felt like with that one, it felt good because it was we'd recognised you as a threat. The derby was a big game between two big teams, and for us to bring in Van Persie, God, I love Van Persie now, but to bring him in, for him to do his job and to win that one, and obviously to go on and then win it, that's why that's one of my favourites because I just think that season in general, in all honesty, I just think watching Van Persie, it was just an absolute delight to watch. In all honesty, he fits so well into our team, and just to polish it off with a derby win and the winner as well, was a great feeling.
Yeah, I'll give you that one. I think it's weird, thinking about it now. I've never thought about it until you said it. Then obviously I remember it coming off Nasri because he stuck his foot out, didn't he? And it deflected around the keeper. It's weird, isn't it, that two ex-Arsenal players basically came together and decided the season. Just bizarre. He was top player though. He was top player for us though, Nasri. I loved him at City. Joe.
It's tough, Obviously, I'll go United all wins. I'm not going to pick 6-1 or anything like that.
Sure.
Well, mate, I was there for it, and I left at 4. And then we were walking down the stairs, and you could hear him say, "Goal number 5, Edin Dzeko."
You missed a few belting ones, to be fair.
Before, mate, 2 goals on the way out.
Yeah, it's
I don't sit high up. I think. Do you know what that I always loved? I don't know why. I just did. Was the Community Shield. Nanny in the last minute when Company give it away. I love that one just because I think you were 2-0 up, weren't you, about 30 minutes?
Yeah.
And when we went on to win, I think we scored one of the best goals I've ever seen United score. With I think it was Cleverley or someone like that who scored. That one. Or another one. When we played you on Solskjaer, we were 2-0 up in about 10 minutes. Dan James was playing in Martial and Rashford. And it just felt like every time we went forward, we were going to score against you. I can still picture Martial scoring now.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened that day. We just turned up and we were like Barcelona. Just every time we went forward, I thought, here we go, we're going to smash them. And then the best one for me is the FA Cup final last year. It's been there for it as well. It's just unreal. Yeah. Like, we absolutely battered you, in my opinion.
Yeah, we didn't turn up. We turned up pissed for that one. Did my head in that.
Even better, I took 20 quid off you.
Well, I'm gonna get it back tomorrow, so we'll be all right, won't we?
I could be 40 quid down on Sunday.
I know.
With mixed bet as well. It's a good thing Jimmy's not here.
Oh mate, honestly, do you know what? That I'd forgotten about that nanny one. That was the game where Company did a mint challenge. Everyone played on, but for whatever reason, really went to the ref and said, "Oh no, 2-footed him," and then he gave him the red card. I remember that. And do you know what? We were 2-0 up in 30 minutes.
Dzeko scored from about 35 yards out.
Yeah, I remember going down onto the concourse at Wembley, and this lad came up to me. And he's like, "We're gonna absolutely batter them. And I was like, you get excited, like, yeah. Could not wait for the second half because I genuinely thought we were gonna go and absolutely hammer you. And that was the thing with United at that time. No other club did it like you, especially in the derbies. But you beat us in the worst way. It was always like controversial. It was always last minute goals. The Scholes header last minute. I think that was the Carabao Cup back then. I'm sure it was that game. But it just felt like those early derbies. You kept just edging us that little bit of quality, just pipping us right at the last hurdle. Bringing in Van Persie, that was a great move. And what makes that one worse is we wanted to sign him as well. Arsenal was like our second, like our sister club at that point. We kept buying hot, feeder club. So it's hanging that he obviously turned us down and went to you, and then scored the goal that decided it all. But they were great derbies then. Nathan, I can't remember. Have you said yours, mate?
No. Obviously, I talked about earlier the 4-3, my dog attacking me, but it links back to the talking about our best players, my best player for United, Paul Scholes, and obviously he's come back. He appeared on the team sheet. Everyone was like shocked. I think we beat you. I think we beat you 3-2 or something. I just remember him coming on, picking the ball up, and just instantly diagonal pass.
Yeah.
Within a minute of being on the pitch, and I was just like, "This is the best thing ever." But one of obviously you've talked about Benjani. That reminds me of the derbies before you were the city that you are now. That was when you had a load of random money and you were throwing it at Benjani, bloody
Yeah.
Joe, Bojinov, Samaras, all these type of players or whatever. But yeah, it was that and that celebration. But yeah, it was definitely the 4-3. The Michael Owen goal. That was my favourite.
Yeah, I remember. Isn't that the one where you mentioned Paul Scholes turning up? Didn't he go Sports Direct for his booze?
Yeah.
Sure, he went Sports Direct. Then he before it picked up his booze.
Yeah. No, he had no booze to play in, but he turned up like he'd been playing week in, week out.
What an advert for Mike Ashley that was. He should have put that on a T-shirt and sold it. You know what I mean? Even Paul Scholes shops here. Jerome probably goes under the radar a bit, but the 3-1 under Ollie right before COVID hit different. McTominay scoring outside the box at the end of the game still gives me chills. Listen, do you know what? As far as it goes, I always thought McTominay was a good squad player, and he's tearing it up in Napoli. Any fair play to him, and Ollie as well. You know this, Joe, and I say this to all you lads all the time. You know, he doesn't get enough credit, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I know he got absolutely rinsed when he was at United. I think that was more just because he was a legend of the club. You know, he'd played there before. You know, he'd obviously come from, you know, the Norwegian league. But if you look back now, I think time has done him a lot of favours. You know, I thought you played really good football under Ole. You know, you were a lot better to watch than you were obviously under Mourinho and Van Gaal. I'm not saying he's as good as Amorim, but you know, I think time has definitely done Ollie favours, shall we say?
Yeah, some of our best football was during lockdown. That was when, well, at first you don't know if it was the lack of crowds or something, but United just seemed to turn it on during lockdown. It was great to watch, and I felt that the way we were just knocking the ball around. I also felt that our squad was at one of its strongest under him as well. You had your Pogba's, Cavani's, and yeah, I just think that it's that United curse. It gets the most clicks in the media. Anything to do with United. If you ever want a player to bump up the price or anything, link him to United. I think that he unfortunately fell victim to that United curse. Yeah, he was a legend. He played into it. Yeah, did we results-wise, did we not always go the way we wanted to? No. But I think there's always that added weight with United where it's, you know, because of predecessors and stuff. And I think that City will be the same when Pepe Benchi moves on. I think that when you've had those period of successes,
Yeah.
All eyes are on you then. All eyes are on the next person. And it's a lot of pressure for some managers, especially if you've not had a club of that magnitude before. But yeah, listen, Ollie was. I've never been Ollie out. Put it that way.
Were you Ollie out, Nath?
I'd have to go through my tweets. I can tell you I was in and out. I know Mourinho was the only person that was never out. I said, do not get rid of Mourinho ever. He literally had his hands tied behind his back. Kind of a victim of his own personality, really. But I think the thing is with Ollie, yeah, he played great football and stuff, but the players did feel like they were starting to down tools when things weren't going right.
Yeah.
And it was that he didn't have that backbone behind him to say, get out of here. But again, is it the product of an environment, everyone above him? I think a lot of people thought he was just maybe a yes man and he'll just do what he's told by the Glazers. But I think you made a great point. Said, obviously, with time, you can see actually he was better than what most people thought. People kicking off because we were second and third and fourth. With what are we now, 13th? And we're like, yeah, you know what? Amarin's got a style of play, but it's just like
Yeah, no, fair play, fair play. I always thought he was decent. To be fair, I love ripping him. Don't get me wrong, but I thought he was better than what he was made out to be. Right, what we're gonna try and do now is come up with we'll try and come up with a combined all-time City United 11. So I think this is where it's probably going to get a bit tenuous. Obviously, I am, it's only me here from a City point of view. So, lads in the chat, get them in there as well. I need your help. There's three United fans here, and I know we're going to be hearing names like fucking Gary Neville getting pushed in. So I need all the help I can get here. I think manager's an easy one, isn't it? I think you'd have to go with Pep there, wouldn't you? Put the cat right amongst the pigeons there, aren't you? Actually, I'm gonna put I'll put Kevin Keegan in there. Actually, let me bring up my builder here. Speaking of lineups, though, who's from your side? Who's starting tomorrow? Have you got any big injuries?
Heaven probably won't be back. I think he's on the mend, but I don't think he's match fit yet. I'm not too sure. So you're missing a couple of key players there. It's who he decides to stick on those sides. I mean, whether Garnacho has earned his place back again after that Forest performance, I'm not too sure. He was pantaloons. But honestly, City as well. You've been struck down by a few injuries. I think you've got a few players still out, a few potentials, but they're not match fit as well. It's that argument now. Whereas I think for ourselves, we're planning for Leon. We're looking to get players back for Leon as opposed to the Premier League games. We'd rather have them back for the Europa rather than put them in the Premier League, get them injured again, or risk any other injuries. So I think we're going to save a few for Leon.
They talk about Mount being in the team because Amorim loves him, and realistically, no injuries. He is Amorim style. That is him. I know loads of people go, he's a flop. He's been injured, so he's a flop in terms of he's not been able to play. But we know, well, I know, in my opinion, he's an Amorim player.
I mean, we've got injuries all over the pitch. Our defence is literally just makeshift at the minute. Obviously Stones being injured, Aki being injured, then Akanji getting injured just wiped us out. Haaland obviously got injured in the last game. The biggest goal scorer in the league out.
But talk about Haaland, no. He don't turn up in these games. He don't turn up in any of these top 6 games, does he? So to you, is that not a good thing? Although you don't have people like Alvarez and stuff to step in these days, which is where you're at. But
I think, I always find that a little bit harsh. I think especially with this season, what ended up happening was he was having 2 or 3 plays put on him every single game, and unfortunately, we did not have the form or the know-how currently to try and unlock it. Creativity has been a massive issue for us this season. Obviously, De Bruyne has wound down massively because again he's just getting to that age. Gundogan should never have played the amount of games that he's played. We're lucky we brought him back, really, but again, his legs have gone essentially. Foden has just gone missing this season, unfortunately. So we've just dried up massively. But he has scored some big goals. I know he ended up losing the game, but he scored against Arsenal, he scored against Spurs. So he's starting to pick up those big goals in the bigger games. And I think the scary thing is, if you look at this season, this has been one of the worst. I mean, this has been the worst season I've seen from a City point of view since the Marquee season where we drew 7 on the bounce. It's probably worse than that season as well. So for him to have gone on to score 30 goals this season, in a season like this with no creativity, I think that's mental. To be fair, right. I've got it up. Took me a little bit of a. All right, let's. I'm just gonna restart it all now. There we go. Right, so formation. It's probably going to be easy. What, just sticking with the 4-4-2? What do you reckon?
Yeah.
Right, we'll stick with the 4-4-2. Okay. Well, we'll start. We'll start with the goalkeeper. Right. I'll obviously. There's only really probably in recent history 2 from us that we can put forward. That would be Carson and Costel Pantilimon. No. Caballero, I tell you what, mate, Caballero's top. Literally won us all those. Surely it was him in the penalty shootouts and the Carabaos. He was quality on a penalty shootout, him, and then he went Chelsea. No, I mean the two from recent from City is obviously Edison and Joe Hart, and I don't get me wrong, I love Edison, and I think we wouldn't have been half as successful as we have been without him because he matches that style of play perfectly. But for me, in my opinion, I think our greatest ever goalkeeper for me it's still Joe Hart. You know, you look at those early seasons, you know, from around 2012. I think he won. I think it was 4 Golden Gloves on the bounce. So, most clean sheets for 4 years running in the league. So I think Joe Hart would be the one that I would put up from City side. I'm going to assume it's going to be players like Van der Sar and David De Gea on your side. Schmeichel, yeah.
I was going to say.
I suppose the thing you need to do is narrow it down between because for me it's easy for me. I a lot of people will be upset I've not put Eddie forward for this, but in my opinion it's Joe Hart. So for me that's who I would put forward. But for you guys, you've got like 3 keepers, aren't you? De Gea, Schmeichel, and Van der Sar, probably the 3 that give you an headache.
Yeah.
Yeah, Flying Dutchman.
Yeah, I think. Just kind of sucked me.
Do you think Van der Sar was a better keeper than David De Gea, though, technically speaking, as a goalkeeper? Yeah. Okay, so we're putting Van der Sar up against Joe Hart here then.
You wish.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good shot. I think, you know, obviously both are very, very good shot stoppers. I mean, Joe Hart was obviously the only reason he left was because his distribution, his obviously ability on ball was you know it was never going to work. He was too old to you know you can't learn as a goalkeeper. I don't think you can learn footwork like that at his age, which is obviously, you know, unfortunate because, you know, he didn't really deserve to go. He was fantastic for us, but we've got to decide between one. So we need to hear. I need to hear your argument here. I mean, for me, the Golden Glove, the 4 on the bounce for me was a big one. I think, you know, I think he was the only. I'm sure to this day he's the only keeper that's done that. And if you look at some of the keepers that were around him at the time, you know, Petr Cech was in the league, David De Gea was bossing it. We're gonna listen. I'll put my tinfoil hat on here now, but you know, this is a completely different discussion. And you know, you call me a conspiracy theorist or whatever, but you know, even a lot of the City players that have been in our squad for the last 5 years don't get brought up, which is incredible. If you look at individual and team stats, we've bossed everything, but don't really hear about people talking about, you know, Carlos Tevez or, you know, players like that. Still, you know, Sergio Aguero. I still hear people talk about Salah and Henry, but you know, unless I would bring him up or another City fan to bring him up, you wouldn't hear of these players. You know, David Silva. I don't hear anyone talk about David Silva anymore, and to me, he's one of the best to ever do it. So, just a weird thing with City. But you still hear about Gary Neville. Do you know what I mean? You still hear about fucking John O'Shea and some of these players because, again, I suppose that's when a lot of people that. Oh, he's in now. John O'Shea.
Exactly.
John O'Shea's the keeper. Yeah, good shout. This is live now, mate.
Age? Are you looking for how a player made you feel when you were watching them? Are you looking for their impact in the league? And I think that with a lot of the City ones, then they start to throw about longevity. This argument with Salah now is longevity and all this sort of stuff. It's what are you looking for in these players? And there's always going to be a bias. That's why you're putting Joe Hart in there now, and I'm like, Joe Hart, what? But then to City fans, sorry, and also to the team, he was a great goalkeeper. But in my head, it's Joe Hart. About Joe Hart. So there's always going to be we needed to find what we create in this combined.
What's the criteria? Well, I suppose it'd have to be. I think it'd have to be obviously trophies won, consistency. You know, individual moments. I hate the word clutch moments, but that's what people call them now, don't they? Clutch moments. The thing is, it's hard with trophies won because some of your players went on to win like fucking 14 Premier Leagues, you know what I mean? Like Giggsy and Scholesy and that. But yeah, we'll crack on anyway, otherwise we'll be here all night. So we'll start with the We'll do right back next.
Easy,
Kyle Walker.
Personally, because of his punditry and how he comes across now, he's now seen as a bit of a meme and not that good of a player. When in fact, I know a lot of you guys won't have experienced him. I experienced him and David Beckham on the right hand side. It's fantastic. It's still Kyle Walker, don't get me wrong, but people are really just throwing it down on Gary Neville. Gary Neville was the right back. Everyone wanted to be Gary Neville. No one ever say that, but the way he played, the way everything. I mean, he was the what Rory Delap for our team. He threw the ball into the box from anywhere. It was crazy. But you're right. It is Kyle Walker.
It's a good point you've made there, and you know I want to come on the back of that because you know I was having a debate with a few City fans on Twitter, you know, earlier today about our greatest ever right back, and obviously most people are, you know, Kyle Walker for the stuff that he did on the pitch, but for me it's not. If you're going to be a club legend, it's not just about how you are on the pitch. For me, it's, you know, you represent your club off the pitch. It's not just on the pitch. And I think all of the issues that Walker had with all the, you know, fucking the multiple sex parties he was having, you know, partying and drinking all the time, putting the club into disrepute. But for me, you know, I still to this day I always put Pablo Zabaleta as our greatest right back because, look, technically speaking, of course, he wasn't as good as Walker, but he was solid. He was solid every single, you know, week in, week out. He put in a 7 out of 10 performance for years, and he was just the ultimate professional. He was quality off the pitch. Still, you know, speaks highly about City now. So for me, when you talk about a legend and a player, there's more to being a player than just what you can do on the pitch. It's what you're doing. What do you do off the pitch? You know, and I think both teams have had players that have been brilliant on the pitch, but then it's the headaches that come off the pitch that bring them down a little bit. But anyway, rant over.
Are we all ignoring the elephant in the room of Diogo Dalot? Like,
I was thinking about suggesting him. Kyle Walker. That's easy. It's a good start. It's a good start. Right, so we go to our centre back pairing now. This is where it gets to. I mean, it's an easy one for me. I'm going to put obviously Vincent Kompany up there, just for what you know, for the longevity at the club. I know obviously there was a lot of injuries there, but you know, was an absolute leader, just leader on and off the pitch. You know, those derbies dragged us through some of those games. The big header, remember that big header he scored against us away from home. You know, I'm sure it was at Old Trafford. It was just massive, just a monster. Was it at our place? Yeah. The Leicester goal. Never seen a defender score a goal like that in my life. Obviously to win us the league. So again, a big, massive clutch moment. So for me, I would put my shout for a City player there would be Vinny.
you've absolutely smashed it. Well done, type thing, like enjoy retirement. So I'd give it Kompany as well. I think he's quality.
I would agree with Kompany. I think he was when we talk about that City spine, you know, of your Aguero, Silva, Torre, it was always Kompany in that centre back, and I thought that he was your defender. He was the defender when it came to City. When you talk about that great City team, so yeah, I have no qualms in putting Kompany in there.
Did you get him before the takeover as well, Lewis?
Yeah,
I'm sure you did. Yeah. There you go.
He was bought as a CDM originally. He played CDM for Hamburg, and then he came in and he filled in at the back, and obviously was, you know, quality. And then went. £8 million from Hamburg, incredible signing that. The only thing that let him down was the injuries. He just had he couldn't last more. He couldn't do 4 games on the bounce, especially towards the latter end of his career. But
on the side of his head.
I was jealous. I was jealous because I play Football Manager. Played it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he was. And again, it's funny because, you know, you speak to a lot of Liverpool fans obviously talk about Van Dijk being the greatest centre back of all time, and Carragher does it all the time. Carragher's like his mouthpiece, isn't he? But Carragher's reasoning for Van Dijk being the greatest of all time, at least last year, was because he dragged them to the first title in however many years. But that's what Vinny did the same, because we hadn't won a trophy in, you know, what was it, 42 years, something like that, 37 years. You know, he had the banner up. You know, so massive player. Anyway, who's pairing alongside him?
Vidic.
It's either Vidic or Ferdinand, and I personally prefer Vidic, but I could see arguments for both. But I want to put forward Vidic.
I'm surprised no one said Joleon Lescott.
I think with Ferdinand would fit into the style of football now, whereas Vidic wouldn't. Ferdinand would fit into a Pep team. He was your quick, skillful defender, and that there's a reason he was the most highest paid defender ever. What we paid for, transfer fee. And that's the thing. I think if we go in terms of thinking about an actual proper team, Company and Ferdinand, to me it would always be Ferdinand and Vidic. But obviously, in the sake of this, I would choose Ferdinand because he was the different style of play.
The only thing I would say about Vidic, I thought Vidic was quality, but the one thing that's starting to bring it down a little bit, there's a lot of ex-pros that have come out. People have been asked about him, and people that have played obviously on the pitch with him and said, you know, he wasn't as highly rated by a lot of his peers as he was with the fans. I think when you talk about players like Ferdinand, for example, and probably Company, some of these other players, you've not really seen that. You know, it was just always, oh, class, what a player. But there's, you know, I've seen it even recently where certain pros, old retired pros, have been asked and they've actually said, well, no, I didn't rate him. I didn't think he was particularly very good. Now, I'm not saying that's enough reason to say he was a shit player, because I don't think he was a shit player, but I think he's one of the players for me. I'd look back and think, I think a lot of it was that nostalgia factor for Vidic, whereas I think Ferdinand was just class to me.
Yeah, it was more for me. It's his style, but whereas as Nate mentions with the Vidic and Ferdinand, where you have Ferdinand as your leader and the person that's there, I always just prefer Vidic's style of play. He just gets
Yeah.
Company in there.
We're talking about Anton here.
Doesn't help. It doesn't.
Yeah. The problem with Vidic is he's got that Torres sort of thing hanging over his head, doesn't he?
And it's annoying because it was one.
Yeah, like Craig Bellamy destroyed Ferdinand. But you don't ever hear about that. It's just been Vidic and Torres sort of thing.
Bellamy's had 2 shout-outs in this stream. Who'd have thought that, eh? Craig Bellamy, Thunder boy.
He's not getting any more.
Get with the command 11. Go and get with the command 11.
Yeah. I'll die on that hill. Left back. This one's going to be a bit of a tough one for me because, it's, you know, historically, you know, with Pep and that, we've not actually had like an out and out left back. It seems like for years. The last one we had was Angelino, and obviously, you know, we got rid of him.
It's Sunji High.
Cliche.
Sunji High, yeah.
It's Sunji High. I don't know if you are too young for Sunji High, but what a player.
I do remember Sunji High. I used to love watching him because if he scored, he'd always do a flip. Because he could do a flip, and I just always thought he's got to be one of the best players in the world. You know what I mean? Because he can do a front flip. Shows you how fickle you were as a kid. Gail Clichy. Do you know what though? And people will laugh at me, right? But what's his name? Delph for like 2-3 seasons for us was incredible at left back under Pep. He's not going to get into the combined 11, by the way. I'm not saying that. I just want to give him a shout out.
It sounded like you were putting the feelers out there. It sounded like you were we were going to
Put it
go,
out
oh,
there,
yeah.
I didn't get much
Fucking
back.
Delph, yeah. Get him in.
So, yeah, from a City point of view, it'd have to be Clichy.
It's, I don't know if you guys know too much. Dennis Irwin is the best left back we've seen in the league. There's no one close to it. But again, that's the early 2000s, late 90s. Like, I don't know what you do there. Like, you don't have your social media, you don't have your it's not clips and stuff like that. Because obviously you've got Evra, for example, on our side. I mean, you've even got Gabriel Heinz there. He was a cult hero. He did a good job for us. But to me, no one comes close to Dennis Irwin.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
No, I mean, look, I'll concede this one. To be honest with you, lads, I do think Gael Clichy was top on in his day, but I don't think he's probably going to be getting in here, is he? So
It's not happening, lad.
I'll let you argue it out for whoever you want there. Dennis Irwin's one that comes up a lot, though.
For me,
Yeah,
Evra.
we didn't watch him. It's a case I didn't watch him. Obviously, for me, it'd be Evra, who, listen,
Hold on a minute, actually, hold on a minute. We've not talked about the GOAT, Alex Kolarov. Alex Kolarov was decent. He's not going to get in this team, is he? Let's be honest. But yeah, we'll save some time there. Yeah. Right, yeah, we've gone there. So the next one would be right wing. I'll let you guys start with this one. Ronaldo. Yeah, I might struggle to find a player there, to be fair, for Cristiano Ronaldo. Right, we'll concede that one. Yeah, we'll concede that one. Let's get a bit more respect in here, yeah? Sean Ratfield's the top player. Right, we've got our two central midfield positions here. This is where it's gonna get fucking tasty. I mean, yeah, it's hard, this. Do you know what? Genuinely, I didn't even think about it. How bad is that? I didn't even think about Rodri. For me, I was. I'm going to put David Silva forward. For me, I think he's in my opinion, he's still the best player I've ever seen, but on a City shirt. I think the only thing that holds him back, because I have talked about David Silva all the time, and the only thing that holds him back is the players that he had around him. Unfortunately, if he'd have been at City, if he'd been born 7 years later or whatever it was, he'd have been our best player in my opinion by a country mile. But you know, a lot of his prime was pre Champions League, for example, and you know all the FA Cups and a lot of the Carabao Cups. So he doesn't often get put up there with people like Kevin and like maybe even Rodri now because of the Champions League and stuff. But for me, David Silva is the greatest player to put on a City top for me, and one of the best to do it in the league. I would have David Silva in here.
I feel like just letting you have it because I could argue all night of Scholes and Keane, so I feel like you could do something.
Well, it's interesting because obviously the people would talk about De Bruyne and Yaya Toure, and you're right. People don't understand how good David Silva actually was. I have him. If you want to, I'm not going to fight your case and say, "Yeah, you need to put De Bruyne or Yaya Toure in there." But them two are easily Yaya Toure to me. I mean, there was a reason he was the highest, the most cost.
Yeah. Well, there's still another spot, so I'm glad you said that. We'll move on to the next spot in midfield.
So please put Paul Pogba in there.
I mean, how can you not have De Bruyne in there?
It's Scorsese to me. It's Scorsese for me.
If we're having if we're having Silva, then we've got to have Scholes. It was one or the other, I think.
Do you know what kills Scholes for me? And it's ridiculous. It's probably a bit silly. This. He's got less assists than Peter Crouch. I just think that's.
But he was.
Yeah,
but
this is the stats argument. Isn't
but look
it?
at Xavi's. Look at Xavi's stats. He's one of the greatest to ever have done it. But he is. Well, isn't this a stat now? A pre-assist.
But
I wonder what his pre-assist would be. Yeah.
But did he have more than Peter Crouch? That's what we've got to get to. That's what we need to understand here.
Yeah, but Peter Crouch is obviously going to be up here anyway, and in one of our strikers.
It's different from midfield because, like I said, we can look at everything these days is GA, GA, XG, all that malarkey.
Stat trackers.
You had certain players, even like your G-Sun Parks and stuff. It was the unshown elements of the game. They were the engines. They had the ability to slow a game down, speed a game up, completely change the pace of it just from one position. And I think that's where some of our arguments come. Because obviously, like say, you've got Lampard who's in the conversation, and Lampard scored. He's he's fourth top Premier goal scorer.
Daft like that.
So if we're going off stats, he probably goes for that. Obviously, you've got Gerrard who carried his team. It's what you're looking for in there. And I think that Scholes, like I say, take away his stats and stuff. It's more about the sort of player that he was. The longevity, which I was talking about earlier, retired, came back, won it again, came in. For me, that longevity, that style of player, that passing, the ability to control a game, that's what puts him in there for me.
It's yeah, I get what you're saying, and I don't disagree with you. I think obviously Scholes is absolutely fantastic, but I think for moments, maybe not longevity. That's not going to win that argument here, but I think moments, impact on the team as well. It's hard not to have De Bruyne in there because of what was it? How many 18, 17, 20 assists every season for the last 8 or 9 years. The big goals that he scored. I get what you're saying about Scholes, but aside from, because the only thing you've ever heard about Scholes growing up for me was, he made other players better, and just him being in the squad made other players better. But for me, that isn't enough when you look at the goals and assist side of it.
All I'd say is go off the players who have played. The greatest midfielder of all time, Zinedine Zidane, said he's his toughest ever opponent. Xavi said he's fantastic. He's best central midfielder, most complete central midfielder. There's everything. There's people like Ronaldinho saying I want to pass like Paul Scholes, and even Pep himself said Paul Scholes is the best midfielder.
Right. If you're gonna use Pep against me, right, I'll put him in. Fucking hell. Yeah. Listen, I'm not going to die in it. Listen, I'll put Scholes is in. He's in. We'll put Scholes in there. But we're on left wing now.
He's losing.
Why has no one mentioned Martin Petrov? Come on, lads, give your head a wobble here. Do you know what? There's one player on here that was actually a top player in his day, but can't really name him anymore because of his off-field activities. Put it that way. Raheem Sterling. Do you know what? I'll tell you right now, I'm not putting Raheem Sterling above Ryan Giggs. I hate fucking Raheem Sterling at City. I'm not going to sit here and put Sterling in this team. I hated him when he was at the club.
He's tainted by his performance at other teams. I thought he was all right for City. I think that he missed a fair few chances. But listen, every City player back in that day got like 7 or 8 chances.
The system and Pep made him incredible, and that's why when he went to Chelsea, everything went. Because he didn't have the players around him to put it on a plate for him, basically. He actually had to think about... Raheem Sterling was the best winger in the world when he didn't have to think about anything that he was doing. If he had to think... If he had like 2 seconds, he was awful. Awful. Apologise to any Raheem Sterling fans. You know, his numbers were great. He
had a lot of goals for City, didn't he?
Yeah.
A lot of goals.
So what we're saying
there, SAS, it was solid.
Yeah. Are we not? So we agreed with Petrov. Nice one. Petrov, Giggsy. Give it Giggsy to the end of the season. Right, and
Listen off the pitch.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was gonna put Johnson in then, but I thought better not. Right, last 2 positions are 2 forwards here. Easy for me. It's got to be Sergio on it. Aguero.
Yeah,
he's got
Sergio Rooney.
Give me that.
Sergio Rooney.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Has to be.
So Aguero and was it Benjani? Did you say? Giorgio Samaras. Danny Welbeck. Do you know what?
No.
I always rated Danny Welbeck. Honestly, I still rate him now for Brighton. I think he's a tidy player, Danny Welbeck.
He's great.
I've never forgiven him since miss against Bayern Munich. Since then, done.
Hated him.
Because that would have sent us through that, and he missed. Don't know why he didn't just put it in the net.
So let's have a look here. We've got the final team. So we've got Joe Hart in net. We've got Kyle Walker at right back. Company Ferdinand as our centre back pair in there. We've got Evra left back. Giggsy left wing. Scholes and David Silva in the centre of the pitch. And Ronaldo on right wing. Rooney and Aguero. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 City players, 6 United players. I've not done well there, have I? But that being said, I am the only City fan on the stream, so I actually think I might have done all right. I don't know. Yeah. But you know what? Honestly, it all means nothing because in 15 years' time, this will become people's all time. They're different. They change all the time. People will have, honestly, people will have Haaland in here in 5 or 10 years' time. Whether we agree with it or not, he'll end up being in here, and Rodri.
Bruno will be in the conversation.
Bruno will be in the conversation. Yeah, absolutely. He's the only player in the crop really that I would say is probably. He's going to go down as a legend, and he probably already is. To be fair to him,
got same numbers has he got better numbers than De Bruyne if we go off stats and stuff? Or well, at least over the last however many years.
Yes, but we've defined, haven't we? It's the pre-assist. That's the important one. It's the all important pre-assist. Right, guys. We'll wrap up. We've been on for a bit now. What we'll do, we'll wrap it up. We'll do our match prediction. So I'll kick us off. I said 2-1 earlier today. To City, I still think it'll be 2-1, but there's no scenario in my mind where Fernandes, Bruno doesn't score, and I just got this hanging feeling it's going to be a penalty. I think we'll make a mistake at the back. If Mateus Nunes plays tomorrow at right back, there'll be a penalty in that game, 100%.
Again.
Or Rico Lewis, actually. Either of them two could give away a penalty. So I think 2-1 City. I think... Who did I say was going to score on my stream? Oscar Bob will come on in the dying minutes of the game, and he'll run on to a De Bruyne a ball, and he'll put it away to win us the game. I'm just not sure. Marmoush will probably score the first goal. Give it to Marmoush. 2-1. Joe?
I agree. I think not with the scoreline, but I agree that Marmoush will score. That's why I put him in the FPL. Yeah. It hurts me to do that because he's playing us. I think we'll win 3-2. I think it's going to be a really good game. I think we need to plant the blocks against you. We can't let you sit in and have 70% of the ball and just do your thing. We need to be right in your faces, smashing the block out of you, basically. I think it'll be 3-2 United. I think it'll be Xerxes hat-trick. I don't know who scored. Marmoush will score. Foden always scores against us. I don't know why. And then I think it'll be Bruno, Delo, and Højlund.
Wow.
We'll probably get beat
3-0.
Yeah.
Nath?
I'm really confident.
I don't think there'll be as many goals as Joe thinks there is. I think it'll be very, very close. I think we'll concede within 5 minutes or something silly like that. I think there'll be some silly mistake at the back or somewhere along the pitch, or Nana will do a front flip to try and save the ball or something silly. Like, I always go, City going to win, but I really don't know. I think it'd be 2-1 either way. I'm going to say United. But I think it'll be 2-1 either way, and I think, like you said, Bruno scores. Same guys what you just said. Marmoush seems like he's your main threat at the moment, and I think the other one, whoever that comes from, our team or your team, will be someone like a defender, like a corner or something rubbish. But I think it'll be close. I'm hoping it'll be close anyway, or at least, unless we win like 8-0.
Yeah. Well, fucking hell, I hope not.
We'll have to do a follow-up stream. Only if we win, though. Only if we win, though.
Yeah. Jack?
I was just going to say, I think that it will be whoever gets the first. If it's you guys, normally it's like you say, in the first 10, 20 minutes, the United just seems to come alive after that, and it's how we respond to that first goal. So I think that 2-1 is obviously the most popular scoreline, and I think that in a ideal City world, I think De Bruyne will get a goal, a screamer or something. But I will go. I think I will go 2-1 to United. I think De Bruyne gets the first. Yeah. I think he just sets the ball rolling, scores a screamer or something from out of from wherever, and then United respond. I would love a Xerxes goal, big fan of Xerxes. But I think that if you don't have Bruno on your score sheet, then you are you're missing form, because he can create it. And like you say, it could be a penalty, it could be something like that.
Yeah. So you're all going for a United win. Obviously, I'm not shocked with that, but I think we'll get 2-1. And you'll all be hearing off me anyway, especially you, Joe. I want that money straight in my bank account, so no messing when we turn you over tomorrow.
It'll be a Klarna payment, lad, trust me.
Paying free.
Yeah, literally.
Well, listen, boys, it's been mint. Thank you so much for obviously coming onto the channel today, and I'll have you on again at some point in the future. Definitely, we'll do maybe for the next derby. But guys, Nathan runs the Twitter channel ND Football. It's basically a football troll account, but please go and follow him. Follow him on there.
It's just an account full of Nathan playing football.
No, it's an unbiased view on football. It's historically it was a Twitter account where I'd put out a load of tweets about my random thoughts for everyone, and it was never, oh, I'm a this fan, that fan. It was, this is football, whatever. I mean, the way the Twitter the landscape's changed now. you put the ridiculous stuff out there, it gets you clicks and views. But I still don't do that. I just talk.
Didn't you call Kev a clown on his announcement post?
No, he just abuses his chairman. That's all he does. He just abuses his chairman at first.
Said he's washed.
Right, guys, we'll jump off. Thank you, everyone, for jumping on. Please do like and subscribe. It helps, obviously, the channel loads. And, yeah, have a good one. Hopefully a big win tomorrow.